Good evening and welcome to NEWSBREAK Live. I'm Hiba Samad. Thanks for joining us. One southbound lane is now open on Anza Avenue after a large water main break this morning that slowed down traffic. Crews continue to work on repairing the break. The northbound lane is still completely closed off from Spencer Street to Delama Boulevard. Traffic is being diverted to east and west on Spencer Street. City officials say the water main break belongs to California Water Service and not Torrance Water. They service about 20% of the city, mostly in the south and west parts of town. Water service is now, however, restored to local residents. Keep up with Torrance Alerts to learn the latest updates on this situation. Local community members stopped by the Torrance YMCA today to make sure they're healthy. Once again, the Y offered free cholesterol and blood glucose screenings. This is done to determine whether your cholesterol is high and is an estimate to determine if you're at risk for heart disease. The event was in partnership with Torrance Memorial Medical Center. One attendee says the event gave her an opportunity to know her health before going into the doctors.
Even if you don't have insurance, to just take advantage of these screenings and things that you can find that pop up. There's health fairs, there's always some sort of community involvement.
The first 5 hearings was held Monday to discuss the makeup of the city's yet-to-be-formed voting districts. Community members had the chance to speak at the special meeting where a majority of council members approved to move forward with taking public input and discussing potential transitions from its current at-large method of elections to a by-district system, which would be a historic change. This hearing was the first of 5 public hearings that must be held before a by-district formal method of election can be adopted. The purpose of the hearing was to identify the neighborhoods, other communities of interest, and other local factors that should be considered or used as building blocks when drafting district maps. The City Council may consider many factors before establishing districts, such as topography, geography, cohesiveness, and community interests. Actual maps will be presented on May 8th. Other public hearings are scheduled at regular council meetings on May 22nd and June 12th. The city has 90 days from the date of filing to decide whether to move forward with district elections. The public is free to submit maps through an online tool that will be made available on Friday at torranceca.gov. The city started this process after it was faced with allegations that the city was violating the California Voting Rights Act. If interested in more details, you can always watch City Council proceedings online on demand at torranceca.gov. The next one will be held during a regular City Council meeting on April 24th. Torrance police cracked down on drivers under the influence by hosting a checkpoint. Torrance police set up a DUI and driver's license checkpoint on April 13th in the eastbound lanes of the 4300 block of Pacific Coast Highway. During the checkpoint, 1,150 cars passed through, leading to 2 DUI alcohol suspects being arrested. 6 drivers were cited or arrested for driving without a license or while having it suspended. Statistics show that most recently there has been an increase in drug-impaired driving crashes. Torrance Police Department is supporting a new effort from the Office of Traffic Safety that aims to educate all drivers that DUI doesn't just mean booze. Torrance Police say they will conduct another checkpoint like this one in the future to lower deaths and injuries. A state legislator secures millions of dollars for a local regional occupational center right here in Torrance. Assemblyman Al Muratsuchi announced recently that the Southern California Regional Occupational Center, also known as SoCal Rock, will receive $10 million in additional funds for over 4 years. Muratsuchi requested that education funds be directed to SoCal Rock through the state's budget. He says that as a former Torrance School Board member and trustee of the SoCal Rock Board, he is happy to make this happen so the center can continue to provide high-quality career technical education and teach valuable job skills to students throughout the South Bay. School officials say the funding will be used for program development and supporting existing programs. Also, they will use the money to build reserves for the future. The state will give the center $4 million in funding for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Today marks the last day to file your taxes, and businesses are making an effort to ease the stress. There are many tax day deals you can take advantage of today. Chuck E. Cheese is helping families counter tax day stress by offering one free large cheese pizza for every large pizza purchased between today and Friday. P.F. Chang's is offering 15% off takeout orders online. The code is Tax Day. Then Office Depot is offering customers shredding of up to 5 pounds of documents for free through April 28th. Chili's is serving up a $5 Cuervo Blue Margarita special for Tax Day. And speaking of businesses, the Boulevard continues to boom. Del Amo Fashion Center will welcome new retailers this spring and summer. Dave & Buster's, Marshall's Home Decor Department Store, Precise Jewelers, Miniso, Travis Matthew, Gymboree, Churros Pier Bakery, and Frostbites will open at the mall. In early June, Travis Matthew, a progressive sportswear brand for men, will be opening. Gymboree will be reopening its doors. Churros Pier Bakery will open this summer with freshly baked churros, bread, muffins, and cakes. And then California local company Frostbites will offer a variety of sweet treats, including crepes and frozen delights. An art supply store that's been around for decades in the city is changing its business plan. Walser's, after 42 years, is closing its art supply store. Through April 21st, they're offering 30% off all art, office, drafting, and digital products. They're also selling office furniture. Currently, they have inventory of over 20,000 professional products. Owner Jack Walser says since colleges dropped art classes, there's been a steady decline in the need of art supplies. Walser is shifting gears and recently opened Walser's Tactical Store, which carries ammunition, targets, knives, gun accessories, and cleaning supplies. He says he hopes he will also start selling firearms. Don't forget to tune into This Week in Torrance, where we'll speak to Jack Walser. To see inventory, you can go to walsers.com. Speaking of closing, a popular coffee chain will not be serving up customers on May 29th. Starbucks announced today that all United States stores will be closed on this date for racial bias training, a consequence of recent incidents involving discrimination at stores. The company says the time will be to address implicit bias, prevent discrimination, ensure that everyone inside Starbucks feels safe and welcome. 8,000 Starbucks in the country will receive this training, including 175,000 people. There'll be various panelists speaking to employees who will also help review the effectiveness of their measures. Even if the store is not receiving training, all Starbucks company-owned stores and corporate offices will be closed that afternoon. Once completed, Starbucks hopes to share their educational materials with other companies. The city's planning commission will decide tomorrow the fate of a new development. Anastasi Development hopes to build a 20-unit townhome complex at 2409 Arlington Avenue. The site is currently developed as a credit union office building. The project proposes 7 townhouse buildings featuring a contemporary Spanish architectural style. Staff say the proposed project is compatible with the character of the neighborhood and with the development in the surrounding area. Now it's time for the weather. It was warm and beautiful today with a high of 67 degrees, and you can expect a low of 53 tonight. Then tomorrow there'll be a high of 69 degrees and an expected low of 55. It'll get slightly cooler on Thursday with a high of 62 and a low of 52. A real estate investment firm based in Santa Monica made a large purchase in Torrance. Miramar Capital has bought a 3-story, 77,200 square foot office building located at 2285 Southwestern Avenue in Torrance. It sold for more than $19 million. The property, which was built in 2000, sits on a 3-acre of land just south of the 405 freeway and is near the former Toyota campus. Officials from the firm say the depth of capital for Torrance has tripled in the last 2 years. This is not the first building they've purchased in the city. California gets ranked as one of the top states for identity thefts. In a new report released, Californians fall victim to identity theft more often compared to other states. Ranking number 3 out of the country, there have been more than 371,000 reported cases just last year. Also, there have been 140 reported cases for every 100,000 residents. Identity theft means that a third party used someone's personal identifying information, such as social security number or credit card number, to commit a fraud or theft. The most common identity theft in California was credit card fraud and employment or tax-related fraud. But there is some good news. Overall, reports show that identity theft has been decreasing. A night of classical and jazz music is coming to Torrance this Friday, and it'll be sure one of a kind. The Asia America Youth Symphony is being led by Grammy-nominated David Benoit through a program featuring music from the films Pirates of the Caribbean, Whiplash, and other original works by Benoit. He is a music director and conductor of the Asia America Youth Symphony and has created programming by a series of dynamic concerts performed by world-class Asian American musicians. The Symphony is one of the premier youth groups in Southern California. The concert will start at 8 p.m. at the James Armstrong Theater. Tickets are available at aasymphony.org. In just 2 minutes, Allison Sherman from the Public Works Department will be live to talk about a great event that will help with recycling. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the second half of NewsBreak Live, and joining me is Allison Sherman, who is the Waste Management Coordinator with the city's Public Works Department. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
And this weekend is very special because the city once again will be hosting the annual Earth Day recycling event. So let's talk a little bit about the history behind it.
Oh, well, our recent event started in 2012 during the centennial. We thought it would be kind of nice to have a special event. So we put together electronics recycling, e-waste, free paper shredding, used oil recycling and filters, clothing donations and shoe donations. It's changed a little bit since then. We now have our oil program off on its own, going about 4 times a year, each quarter. And the event now is that we're going to hold on Earth Day will be just paper shredding and electronics recycling. And now we've been holding that same event also in November, so we're doing it twice a year now. And hopefully we'll be able to continue and maybe even add some more as we go along.
Great, so let's get to the details. It's this Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon, and you just mentioned only recycling electronics, free paper shredding. What is not allowed for people who I'm sure will be bringing a lot of things that is not allowed?
Sometimes that happens, yes. And when you do bring something that's not appropriate or we're not able to handle, we try to give you some information on where you can take it. But basically what we're looking for in electronics or e-waste is things like computers, cell phones, television sets, things that have a plug and electronic equipment in them, but not things like hazardous waste. Those are things like chemicals or batteries or fluorescent bulbs. We're not able to handle those at this event. And when it comes to the paper, the paper shredding, we limit each vehicle to 8 bags or boxes. Please make sure that they're easy to handle so that people can take them out of your vehicle for you. And make sure that the paper is stuff that really does need to be shredded, things that are financial statements, bank statements, things that have important personal information, and not just magazines or books or something like that.
What about electronics? What are you accepting? I know you made a little mention of it, but when we talk about electronics, what can people bring, and what is common items that people bring?
Mostly televisions and computers. We sometimes get unusual things because we do take small appliances as well, so we might get microwaves and vacuum cleaners and things like that. Yeah, any kind of electronic that has a plug or a computer chip in it is something that we can accept.
It's a great event because it's only for Torrance residents. It's free. All you have to do is show up, and it's in honor of Earth Day. So I guess tell me about what is the importance of recycling.
Well, probably the most important thing about recycling is that it's conserving natural resources. And especially in the makeup of electronics, enormous amounts of natural resources are utilized. Enormous amounts of water and different types of chemicals. And some of these chemicals, particularly things like mercury, lead, cadmium, these can be very dangerous. So that's why we don't want to let them loose in the environment where they can cause other damage. If any electronics end up in landfills, these materials over time can leak out. They can affect the soil, they can get into the groundwater, and that ends up being the water we drink. So it's very important to make sure these things are recycled. Recycling does a lot of good for the environment. It saves energy, it conserves water, it makes less pollution in water and air, and again, we're conserving natural resources. So that's all a big part of it, and that's why it is so important.
You mentioned that on average 10 tons of paper and 18 tons of electronics is collected during this drive. So what does that show to you that this drive is very beneficial and people do know about it and want to come out and do the right thing?
Yes, it's important, particularly when it comes to the e-waste, that there are not a lot of options out there for dealing with it on a regular basis or that are completely close by to us. Now, so that's why we do offer this. However, we do want to let people know that there are some other options. The county and the city of Los Angeles offer free programs as well. There are permanent facilities. There's one in San Pedro that's pretty close to us. There's one in Signal Hill, and I think the other one is in Marina del Rey. Those are permanent facilities for hazardous waste and electronic waste that are open just about every weekend. They're a little further out. The other option is the one-day events, and those happen usually once a month somewhere around us. And they pick a parking lot somewhere and they invite everyone to come, and usually they're the same places year after year. The city of Torrance hosts one of these events almost every single June, and this year it's going to be on June 16th. There was some other material that went out that said June 9th. It's not going to be on June 9th.
Okay.
Please come on June 16th to American Honda, 1919 Torrance Boulevard, from 9 a.m. to 3, and that is another option for people to deal with both. You can bring in electronics, e-waste for recycling, and they will take all the hazardous materials.
Great, and I want to talk about this weekend again before we move on to other events. Electronics, paper, and you did mention and reiterate the products and items that people cannot bring, which includes medications. What else?
Again, all the hazardous materials, that includes medications. When you bring in your paper, make sure that you don't have large clips or binders or anything like that. Paper clips are okay, and staples and things like that. But we're focusing again on the electronics materials, so it's not regular recycling. We don't take bottles and cans and things like that, but just the secure paper for shredding, the e-waste for recycling, and hopefully that will be very beneficial to people.
I'm sure it's a learning experience for people when they do come to the event. If they bring something like batteries, which you do not accept, correct? So tell me, you're usually at the event, so is it a learning experience for many of the residents that do come out to this program?
Actually, I'm pretty impressed. A lot of our residents know what to do, but we do have flyers available, so if people do bring a hazardous waste, a battery, a fluorescent bulb, or something, a chemical that we can't handle, we refer them to the hazardous waste places I've mentioned. And what's really nice is a lot of our local retailers are starting to take materials. Best Buy, I believe Staples, they will often take some hazardous material, not hazardous, but electronic materials, toner cartridges, certain materials for recycling. I believe Lowe's and Home Depot will take the small compact fluorescent bulbs, rechargeable batteries. So there's more and more options out there for people. But what we offer is the more overall big things, taking everything at once as much as possible when we do these large-scale events.
And before we move on to other great events that your department will be hosting, tell me about the location of the event this weekend. What's the best way for people to get there? Because it is in an employee parking lot, correct?
Right. We've chosen the Rose Garden employee parking lot. It's on the eastern side of the City Hall complex. It's at the intersection of Torrance Boulevard and Maple Avenue. And it's best to enter off of Maple Avenue.
Okay.
And hopefully it will run smoothly. If we need to make changes because of the flow or the large amount of participation, we'll make changes as best we can. But hopefully it'll go smoothly.
Great. And when it comes to recycling for local residents at home, are you seeing any new trends? Do you have any tips for local residents?
Well, just to be aware that we need to recycle even more. There's an awful lot of material that is still not getting recycled. And so we want you to hopefully come to visit our website, which is torranceca.gov/publicworks, and you can learn about what goes where. So we can detail for you what materials can go into each of the different containers. You have trash, you have recycling, and you have green waste in the city of Torrance right now for residents. Businesses and multifamily are also required to recycle as much as possible too. And we hopefully will be doing more outreach and education in that area over time. But the whole idea is there's probably more that you can be recycling at home without even realizing it. So if you come to our website, give us a call. We can send out our brochure or just talk to you about the different things that you can recycle. Styrofoam, hardcover and softcover books, all the different kinds of plastics maybe you weren't aware of that we can recycle. Paper, almost every kind of paper and cardboard can be recycled unless it has food contamination on it. So there's an awful lot that can still be done. So we're hopefully going to try to encourage people to recycle as much as they can.
Great. And for the next event coming up, which is in May, it's the free oil filter event. And we actually recently had one that Torrance City Cable was at. So tell me about this great event that's actually hosted at a local business. And there's a lot of perks to it.
Oh, yes. We have a wonderful oil recycling program. It's funded by the state of California. And we offer that when everyone brings in their oil from changing their oil in their own car and taking in the oil filter as well, you bring it in whenever we're holding it at a different retail location, because we've got about 30 different locations in Torrance where you can take your oil and filters in for recycling at any time. But when we hold these events, not only do we take your oil and filters for recycling, we offer you a free oil container that you can use for recycling your oil. We have a special bag made for holding the filters when you recycle them. And we give away a lot of other auto-related materials to help support this program and encourage people to make sure their oil is recycled, because when oil gets loose in the environment, it can be very, very damaging.
Can you mention a date, location? Do people have to sign up, or can they just show up on that date?
They can just show up on that day. It's going to be on May 19th. I believe, is it at AutoZone this time, I think?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so it'll be at AutoZone, although we do switch around with all the different locations and try to give everyone a chance to host an event. But yes, you just show up during the day, and we'll be there to help make sure that your materials get recycled.
And excuse me, I think it's going to be at O'Reilly's this time around.
O'Reilly's.
The last time it was at AutoZone. So just for people
thanks.
tuning in. Great. And what are some programs that are coming up, that are in the works, that you'd like to talk about, that residents should know about, that maybe they don't know the city offers?
Well, a couple of things we have going on and is that we always offer composting workshops all the time. And it's run through the county. We have a wonderful demonstration site at Columbia Park, but we sometimes go around to some of our libraries and offer the program there. So the next workshop we're going to have, again, this is free to learn about composting, to get the composting bins, the worms, whatever you need to get started. The next one will be at Columbia Park. They go from 9:30 to 11. And it's going to be on Saturday, June 16th as well. Mm-hmm.
Great. Allison, any exciting changes on the horizon that you might want to talk about? The Public Works Department in Torrance does so much, and you guys are such a large department. So if there's anything you'd like to talk about.
Well, I deal mostly with recycling, so that's my big area. One of the things that I think is really important that I would like more people to be aware of is the idea of extended producer responsibility. That's the idea that not only should a company or a manufacturer make a product, but they need to design the product so that it can either easily be recycled or that they will oversee the end of the product's life and try to make it as safe and as non-toxic and non-damaging to the environment as possible. And it's an entire movement. Most of it's done through legislation, but a lot of it can be done through outreach and education, letting people know about it. There's been a couple major programs that have already come through. One of them is called Paint Care, and that is a program where retail stores that sell paint, like Orchard or Sherwin-Williams or Dunn-Edwards, all of those locations in the city of Torrance will take any paint back for recycling now. And it's paid for by the paint industry to make sure that as much is recycled as possible. So these are programs that are starting up that you can use and that hopefully will make sure these materials are taken care of and not allowed to damage the environment. If you are interested in learning more about extended producer responsibility, you could go to the California Product Stewardship Council, look them up on Google and see their website. It's very interesting, and it's an important new way of looking at how we design products and how we prepare for the end of life of these products so that we are not damaging our environment.
Great. And for people who don't come out to the event this weekend, I'm sure you recommend that people can do their part at home, whether it's recycling one can even, that they're definitely making a difference in the community and in our environment. Oh
yes, any recycling you do, no matter what kind of recycling it is important and it does make a difference.
Great. And just to reiterate, there's Earth Day recycling event this Saturday happening in Torrance. So we'll have all the information online at torranceca.gov. Thanks, Allison. Have a great night. Well, that does it for NewsBreak Live. City Council has the night off, and if you ever have news or video that you'd like to share, please email us at newsbreak@torranceca.gov. And if you ever miss any part of the show, you can catch it on Torrance City Cable's YouTube page. Have a great night.